3-month deal at Blackburn. Manchester's Sarah Storey has won her second gold medal at the Paralympics and Great Britain's 30th gold medal at the Games. Storey won the women's individual time trial road race events in Beijing, following up Wednesday's gold in the velodrome. Sale Sharks captain Juan Martin Fernandez-Lobbe and Lee Thomas have both failed fitness tests for tonight's game with Saracens at Edgeley Park. Sean Cox and Chris Bell replace them. Kick-off 7:45. We'll have live updates throughout the evening and full commentary online at bbc.co.uk/Manchester. And in Rugby League, Wigan host Bradford in the Super League playoffs at Widnes this evening. Full commentary right here from 7.
BBC Radio Manchester, satellite weather with Diane Oxford.
Well, we were forecasting an increase in cloud as we went through the day, but a lot of it's already slipped around the bottom end of the Pennines, and many places look grey as we speak. There's room for that to thin and break here and there, and you might catch a glimpse of brightness, but as you go through the day, there may well be 1 or 2 Pennine showers turning up here and there, and toward the back end of the day, it looks like we'll see some rain for the evening. Daytime temperatures, 18 Celsius.
Lunchtimes belong to Beswick.
Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Are you all right? Good. Yeah, I'm Allan Beswick with you for the next couple of hours. You can take part if you so desire. 0161228 2255. The chief executive of the failed XL Travel Group has said that the airlift to repatriate 67,000 airline passengers stranded abroad, it's going to be the biggest airlift ever. I think the Berlin airlift might just surpass it. Only by a whisker, mind, but it might just surpass it. You know, when people like Freddie Laker were flying coal and oil and everything that Berlin needed. Everything it needed. Everything. Flour. All the heavy stuff, newspapers, jewellery, you name it, it had to go by plane when the Ruskies and the East Germans got a bit iffy. When would that be? 58, 59? Maybe later than that. Yeah, so I think that was probably a rather more impressive feat than getting 67,000 people back. I'm not diminishing that, but what they won't be doing is, if they're in Paris, saying, well, we'll go through the tunnel instead, because that's shut and all. I think a rowing boat on the southern banks of the Channel must be changing hands at phenomenal prices. Anyway, if you're a Catholic, and we won't hold it against you, we don't mind you being balmy. If you're a Catholic and you're looking for someone to pray for, might I suggest Sabina Guzzanti? For it is she. Sabina Guzzanti is going to jail, possibly, for 5 years in Italy. Yes, she's a comedian, 45 years of age, and she's famous for her biting criticism and impressions of the Italian Premier, because she's Italian, Silvio Berlusconi. Anyway, she might go to jail because a prosecutor has filed charges against her under a 1929 treaty that was actually signed by Mussolini, no less. And this is what she said. She said that the Pope will go to hell when he dies as a punishment for Roman Catholicism's treatment of homosexuals. Yeah. She said the Pope will go to hell because of allowing the faith that he is the pontiff thereof to be so wicked to homosexuals. And she said he'll go to hell for that. Turns out that she'll go to jail for that. So might I recommend that all the Catholics have a quick pray and see if you can't save her.
John Thompson, he knows what he needs.
The Rubik's Cube, could you do it? Peeling the stickers off was silly because you'd always get them thumb... You know, when you peel it with the nail marks or your chips, it looks a bit chipped and nasty. The secret was to buy a market Rubik's Cube, not the branded one.
Oh, used to fall apart.
They fall apart much easier, put them back together and go, ta-da, I've done it.
John Thompson, he knows what he needs.
Grange Hill now, talk to Alan and Benny. Do you want to know what they do now? Because you said Zamo, you mentioned Zamo earlier, and he was apparently a key cutter and heel bar man between Wardour Street and Dean Street. And when I lived in London, I used to, do a little bit of a rubberneck around the corner, just see if Zamo was cutting a key or polishing a stiletto. Never saw him once.
John Thompson's take on the world.
It's terrifying. Terrifying.
Tomorrow morning from 11 on BBC Radio Manchester.
Hiya. Gary in Urmston. Good day
Hiya.
to you, sir.
Hi, Alan. You okay?
Yeah, I'm all right, huh?
Yeah, it's just this XL fiasco.
Oh, yeah.
We've been with a company part of XL, which was Cosma, for 10 years. We've always been with them.
You travel with them every year, yeah?
Yeah, and last year they changed to XL Holidays, and they put the prices up to the same resort by 220 quid.
Against what? Because I don't know what...
Well, it was roughly £360 for a 2-week holiday.
And they've added 260 to it?
220.
Good God.
This was last year, so we said, bugger that. We'll go with another company.
Yes, an understandable response, if I may say.
Because there's 4 of us go. My friend will go with. He's a careful Christian, you know.
Yeah, you'll be all right next to him. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's either sit near a Christian or the black box if you want to survive an air crash. Come on.
So we said, no, we're not going with... So we've gone with another company. There's only one other airline from England that goes there. I won't mention the name.
Well, it doesn't matter if they're the only one now. They've got a monopoly.
Yeah, it's Thomas Cook.
And where are they going?
It's Kalamata, Greece.
Kalamata? I thought that was an octopus's leg. Clearly.
That's calamari.
Oh, is it? Well, there you go, you see. I was close, but no cigar.
It's still Greek.
Yes, still Greek. It's all Greek to me.
Yeah,
so you must be feeling pretty chuffed this morning, then.
Well, we've actually got 2 more holidays booked with this other company, so out there. But we know quite a few people who are going because we're actually going this Sunday.
Then you'll be going anyway, but you wouldn't have been in the other case, because did you hear that fellow? And the airlines they're absolute monsters, aren't they? There's a chap there said he had to ring his bank to make sure he could get an overdraft in order to pay 300 odd quid for a ticket on his holiday. And by the time he'd finished the phone call, when he went back, the price had gone up to 700. They're monsters.
But we spoke to a lot of the apartment owners over where we go, and who were with Cosma XL, and half of them blew them out last year.
Good Lord.
Because he was demanding more money. But the thing is, I mean, I watched it on the BBC News this morning. They was taking bookings till 12 o'clock last night.
It's one of the strange... And I mean, I know it's absolutely unacceptable, but it has to be like that, because there has to be a moment...
Oh, the cut-off, yeah.
...where the decision is made.
Yeah.
And although yesterday a bookmaker closed his book, as they say, refused to take any more bets because so many people were backing XL to go bust.
Yeah.
And he stopped taking bets. They'll gamble on anything these days.
I wish I had that, because me and my friends said last year that they'll go bust this lot the way they're going.
Well, there you are. You should have got a tenner at the...
I just feel sorry for... I mean, we know quite a few people are supposed to fly with XL on Sunday.
Well, yeah, and your holiday's lost. There's a family. I mean, they're all painful for everyone involved. But there's a family, and I felt for them. They did without a holiday last year so that they could have a better one this year. Yeah. And the idea was, it's their kids are of an age. This is the last holiday the family's going to have together. You know, when they get to that age that I'm not going with you, ma'am. You know, and they're at that stage. So they said, well, we won't go. We'll go next year instead, and we'll have a really big one because it'll be the last. They turn up at the airport, no plane. They're goosed. They're absolutely screwed. Yeah. They, you know, if you're reasonably comfortably off and your credit cards are clear, then you can pay whatever it takes and worry about it later.
Yeah.
And.
Not when they saved up.
Well, exactly. You know, when you've had to save up, strive to get your holiday, and it's snatched from under you, it's bloody awful. Bloody awful.
I heard the chief executive on the radio. He's really upset.
Yeah, I know. Do you think he'll still get paid?
Yeah, I think he won't lose any sleep.
Well, he might. He might have a soul. What he hasn't got is a bloody calculator.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you are. Good on you, mate. Well, enjoy your holiday when you go to calamari or whatever it was. They only let you in if there's 8 of you. Oh, that's awful.
No, it's 12.
It's 12.
12, Kalamata 12 it was.
All right.
Yeah.
Have a good holiday.
Right.
Cheers, mate. 0161 228 2255. It's the 3rd largest holiday company. The 3rd largest. I mean, you expect... because of the nature of the beast, you expect the little uns to go to the wall. But the big uns, and this isn't the end of it. This isn't the end of it by any stretch of the imagination. We had an airline go bust last week, quite a substantial one. There's going to be more. And what do we say? Well, I'll tell you what we say. First of all, we commiserate with those who have suffered. I was talking to a bloke this morning, my mate Mick. He paid with an ordinary card, a debit card, and frankly is unlikely to get his money back from what I can see, with one of those pure debit cards as opposed to a debit credit card. If you're booking a holiday, if you're buying anything of any size, anything over £100, for God's sake, pay by credit card. And then when the bill comes in a couple of weeks later, pay it off. If you were going to pay by debit card, when the bill comes in a week later, a fortnight later, a month later, pay it off. Get the protection. It's the only sensible thing to do. Because in the main, it doesn't cost you any more. It's exactly the same price to you. Now, it costs the company a bit, but who gives a stuff about them? If you're paying for anything that costs more than £100, for crying out loud, pay by credit card. And that way, if you were at the airport now, waiting to go on your holiday, you would know at least, if you paid by credit card, and if you paid more than £100, you would at least know that you will get the money you've spent back. Now that, if you like, equips you to make a different decision about what you do. Some people at the airport who paid by debit card or cash or cheque, their only option, unless they're comfortably off, their only option is to get back in the car and go home and sulk. That's it. That is what they've got. If they'd paid by credit card, they might have another option. Yes, quite possibly get back in the motor car and drive home. But when they get home, they know that within a month or two, they'll have their money back. Free. Come on, for crying out loud, if you're paying for something over £100, pay with your damn credit card. Protect yourself. And don't think your debit card is inevitably going to protect you. Oh, Keith's picked up on the Italian comedian story who said that Pope Benedict VI would rot in hell and be tormented by homosexual demons, or as they're known round here, other priests. She's facing a prison term for 5 years. Addressing a Rome rally in July, Sabrina Guzzanti warmed up with a few gags about Silvio Berlusconi, her favourite target for biting impression, before moving on to some unrepeatable jokes about Marica Fagna, the Equal Opportunities Minister and one-time topless model. And then she got religious, and after warning everyone within 20 years Italian teachers would be vetted and chosen by the Vatican, she got to the punchline and said, but then within 20 years the Pope will be where he ought to be, in hell, tormented by the great big puffed devils, and very active ones, not passive ones. So there you are. That Pope will rot in hell for his views on homosexuality. You don't go to jail for saying that round here. 0161 228 2255, and nor should you. There's a big row going on in France because Sarkozy, the president, has suggested, all he said, as far as I understand it, all he said was, countries that have a faith are happier than those that do not. That was all he said. Oh, my God, the apples are poured from the cart. Why? Well, they have absolute, it's absolute distinction between state and faith in France. Absolute distinction. They don't swear to God when they become ministers. They're not allowed to promote religion. Nothing like that. When you become a member of the parliament, or you become the mayor, or what have you, you are not allowed to discuss religion. We'll have none of that. Thank you very much. Indeed, the church-state divide in France is absolutely fundamental to democracy in La République. But Sarkozy, all he said, you know, it's just a comment, isn't it, really? But all he said was the countries that have a faith are happier than the countries that do not. Chris in Middleton said there are many firms charging a surcharge now for credit card use. Electrical sheds as well as travel agents. Indeed they are, Chris, and you have to make the judgment, don't you? You have to make the judgment. But often it turns out that they're not charging a premium, but when you look at your bill, it sounds as if they did. So you pay by credit card and then you get your bill. And on the bill it says, I have agreed to pay 2% or whatever it is, credit card usage. But in truth, the goods were the same price as they would have been if you paid by cash. It's just the way they present the bill. Because there's a big row went on about VAT being paid by the sheds and travel agents and others on the little bit of the bill that was the fee for credit card usage. So they separate the bill out now in some companies so that they pay VAT or their VAT requirement on the bit that you pay for the product, and then the 1.5%, 2%, whatever it is for your credit card charge, they don't pay VAT on. So that's why it's separated. And there are very few that levy a charge for using a credit card. In fact, if anyone can name one, send it to me via email, radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk. Of course, if you're buying a car or something of that size and you want to pay by credit card, they will charge you. Just gone 12 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines. Anna Dawson.
The chief executive of the failed XL travel groups warned it'll be extremely difficult to fly home up to 67,000 of the airline's passengers stranded abroad. There's expected to be an announcement later that most or all of the company's 1,700 UK employees will be made redundant, and thousands of holidaymakers have been affected at Manchester Airport. An investigation's due to begin into a fire on an industrial estate in Gorton. Roads in the Vaughan Street area are still affected after the blaze at a linen warehouse. And the fire service is warning it'll still be some time before the Channel Tunnel can reopen following yesterday's blaze. Manchester's weather mainly dry and cloudy, highs of 16 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Well, we've just heard there that a number of roads around the Gorton area are still closed off because of this building fire that happened last night around Vaughan Street. Vaughan Street remains closed for the time being between Gorton Road and Bennett Street. Also affected Pottery Lane and Tooley Street as well. Those roads aren't likely to be reopened now until at least 6:30 this evening. Traffic on the M67 seems to be coping fairly well eastbound around Junction 3 at Hyde. Of course, those off-peak roadworks continue now until around about 4 o'clock this afternoon, and all XL Airways flights I've been hearing today have been cancelled because of the company having had gone into administration. Those who are already abroad should be able to complete their holiday and have a return flight arranged for them. Passengers in the UK, well, you have a number of options. You can either check the website, which is www.xl.com, or you can call the helpline on 0800 068 8991. Don't forget, if you can update me further on the road situation where you are, then call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
Decongesting Manchester, one car at a time. 2020 traffic.
BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. Are you well? Excellent. Just to reiterate what I said before, because I've been sent an email by NH, and he says, look, if you use your debit card, you sometimes are protected. Well, that is true. If you have one of those cards that is a debit and credit card, you're protected. But if your card is an exclusive debit card, in other words, it's just debit, there's no credit card on it, then I'm afraid you're not protected. So that's the difference, which is why we said it as we did. 0161 228 2255. If you've got something to say, that's fine. And you can email radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk. It won't do you any good at the moment, of course, because my email, for reasons known only unto themselves, is not actually working. So that's good. Yeah. No idea why. It's just gone wonky on my screen. But fear not, for I do have about my person a small mallet that I'll smack it with, because it seems to be the only thing it understands. Oh, there we go. I think we might have it working. My word, all I did was kick it. It works every time. Fantastic. Yeah. 0161 228 2255. And now I can tell you, NH in Tameside said that Visa debit cards would give the same protection as Visa credit cards, but not if it's one of those others that are just debit cards, which is precisely what we said, and that's good. Thank you for that. If you've something to say, then we've got people that are lovely to hear from you. The only countries that don't have a faith are communist countries, because communists are atheists. So the United Kingdom is probably happier than Laos or North Korea. That's Ted in Moston. Well, of course, you miss out France, which doesn't have a faith. As the point was, Ted, that's the whole point. And there are a number of countries that are not communist countries, but choose to keep state and faith separate. The United States is sort of that way, except it falls at the final hurdle, because when the president is sworn in, or anybody else, they're sworn in with what you might call the God creature, as being, they swear to God that they'll do their best and all the rest of it, which is rather a mockery of the suggestion that religion and state are kept separate. Anish in Bolton, hi.
Hi, Alan.
What can we do for you?
I just got a quick question about the collapse of this XL airline.
Okay.
Wouldn't holiday insurance protection cover such events?
Possibly.
So all these people who are stranded in various locations, would they have a chance of going to their ringing up their holiday insurance companies and going through them?
The phrase "would they have a chance"? Yes, it depends on the kind of holiday insurance they've got, and whenever you're buying holiday insurance, it is absolutely crucial that one reads the schedule of insurance to see what it is that you are protected against. But yes, many of them will have that, and for some of them, the first people to go to when your holiday goes belly up, particularly if you're in a foreign land, the first people to go to is ABTA and ATOL. Because if you were booked under the aegis of either of those organisations, they immediately have the responsibility and the resources, frankly, to get you back home. Yeah. In the case of your holiday insurance, it depends on your policy. Right. I had to get back from Sicily quite quickly a couple of years ago because of a personal incident in our family. And the holiday insurance bent over backwards, and indeed they organised us. We were in Sicily, there were no direct flights that they could book, and we ended up, what we would have ended up doing was having to get to the mainland, fly to the mainland, and then fly Air Ital to London, and then, come up on the shuttle and all of that. And it was going to take 2 days. It was going to cost £1,000 a piece. And frankly, the holiday company, the holiday insurance people, travel insurance people were organising it for us. And it just so happens that we'd flown with an airline, and I rang here to get some phone numbers, and Monarch Airlines were their chairman, chief executive, I think, was in the building at the time, and he managed to get me on a Monarch flight, which saved a lot of messing. Saved a lot of messing. I think the holiday company eventually, the travel company paid for that, but it was a nightmare. So, yes, the travel insurance might do it, but it depends on the policy always. And if your travel insurance will do it, they'll actually do all the work as well, which is great. They'll find the flights and everything, so that's pretty good. But yes, so in many cases they will. But the first port of call, particularly with a package, is ABTA or ATOL. Right. And if you're on your own, well, you're knackered. Absolutely knackered. Because as we heard this morning, everything trebles in price. So even to get you back, say, well, OK, I'll get myself back, thank you very much. You're then competing with large organisations who are booking a whole plane or half a plane, so you really are up against it. But you're right to point out, travel insurance may do it. All right, mate. Cheers. Ta-ra now. Bye-bye. And that applies also to cancelled holidays. It may well be that your travel insurance covers you. Laura in Fallowfield. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Alan. It's about the advice you're giving about credit cards and paying by credit cards.
Yeah.
I have had experience, and I know I've been told before what you have said, but you don't get the cover that you're making out. I bought a mobile phone online, and it went faulty. It was brand new. It went faulty after a couple of months. I contacted the company I bought it off, and they said, "Oh, it's nothing to do with us. You'll have to get in touch with the manufacturer." So I sent it back for 2 repairs, and I refused a third repair on the phone. And the manufacturer said, "Well, that's all we can do." The company I bought it off wouldn't help, and I contacted the credit card company, and they did get involved, but in the end, they just closed the dispute down and said, "I'll have to pay the amount due."
Well, a number of questions arise. The first one, how much did you pay for the phone?
£324.
And you paid by credit card?
Yeah.
Right.
I did, yeah.
Now, when you say they closed the dispute down and said you would have to pay the sum, was that the sum that the company that made the phone were charging you for a repair?
No, the company I bought the phone from.
Well, okay, but they were charging you for the repair.
Yeah. Well,
No.
there was no. It
Well,
wasn't a charge for the repair. Sorry.
Well, what was the
Because
sum that you were required to pay?
Because it was still under warranty, so there was no charge for.
Yeah, my
for
question
repairs.
is,
Sorry.
what? It's okay. What you said was the credit card company said you will have to pay, and
Yeah.
I don't understand what there was to pay.
The amount that I paid for the phone.
So you bought the phone on your credit card,
Yeah.
right? Ignore everything else now,
Yeah.
and then you still owed money. You hadn't cleared that from your card. Is that what?
No. Well, I didn't intend to. I just intended to pay it off.
Bit
you know,
by bit.
yeah.
So you hadn't cleared the sum.
I haven't cleared the sum now.
Right. So what you appear to have said to the credit card company is, "I don't want to pay you for this because it's not worked properly."
No, I do want to pay for the phone. I just want the phone that's working. I know
what you want. I'm just trying to find out what transpired. You see,
Right.
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 But
I'm sorry.
there are two stories running in parallel here,
Yeah.
and you're treating them as one,
Okay.
as anybody in your position would. But there are 2 stories running in parallel. One is you borrowed £300.
Right.
Okay. Now, once you've borrowed that £300, you have an obligation to pay it back.
Yeah, no problem,
I know that. I know. I'm just saying that's story number 1.
Right.
There is then another story going on about the thing that you bought.
Yeah.
And the thing that you bought proved, in your view, to be faulty.
Yeah.
And you commissioned the company that sold it to you, eventually, to repair it. Am I correct?
No, not quite. The company I bought it from said after 28 days, they
It
said
goes to the manufacturer.
It's nothing to do with them, right?
Okay.
You'll
Well,
have to get in touch.
they were lying to you, but that's okay. You then got in touch with the manufacturer.
Yeah, and they said we'll send it back and we'll have a look at it. And they repaired it and sent it back to me, and it worked for a week. And
Right.
the same fault developed again.
So then what
I
did you-
contacted them again,
Right.
and they said we'll send it back. And I did,
Right.
and I got it back, and a week later it had the same fault.
Okay.
So I contacted them for a third time, and they said send it back. And I said, well, no, I'm not sending it back because you've had two tries,
Right.
and it hasn't
And-
resolved it.
Okay. So am I to take it that you effectively at that point decided you would hold on to the phone and seek redress from your credit card company?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you say that redress failed?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, how long ago was this?
Just yesterday, I got a letter
right.
from the credit card company.
Then I suggest,
Excuse me?
what did you say to the credit card company, apart from the narrative that you've just related to me? What did you say to the credit card company you wanted?
I more or less wanted them because
You didn't
the
write more or
company-
less in your letter. Tell me what you said.
Yeah, I asked them, I explained to them the problem that I'd
So you
had.
told them the narrative, then
Yeah.
what did you ask for?
I said the company that I bought the phone from was being less than helpful, but
Yeah.
they didn't want to know. They
Yeah.
said it's nothing to do with them.
And what did you ask them for?
And I asked them to get involved and see if they could...
Right. So
help
all
me.
you've asked them for is to get involved and try to get the manufacturer to do what?
to replace the phone or
Right.
refund the amount
Okay.
the amount that I paid for it.
And the credit card companies say that they've been in touch with them.
Yeah, they've gone through all their avenues. They've contacted the manufacturer. They've contacted, which I've done myself.
No,
They've
well, tell me
contacted-
what the credit card company said. I don't need the narrative again. Tell me
Right.
what the credit card
Okay.
company said.
It just says in this letter, I refer to a recent telephone conversation about the above transaction, which is a phone. A copy of the response that...
Yeah, okay, you've got that.
right.
And what did they then say?
Then it finishes... The previous message dispute amount will show on your next statement as resolved amount. This is not a further debit, but confirmation that our file has been closed and the item is due for payment in the normal manner. Yours sincerely.
Right, then what I suggest you do is get back in touch with the credit card company
Right.
and say to them, I purchased this phone using credit card number 12345 right up
Right,
to
yeah.
16. I purchased this using this card. The phone is faulty. I refer you to the narrative in my letter previous.
Right.
I now require that you refund the cost of the phone under Section 75 of the Consumer Credit Act.
Section 75.
Of the Consumer Credit Act.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you have to remember that credit card companies are just banks. And they will give you nothing unless you ask. And what you
Right.
asked them to do was get involved. So they did. They got nowhere, and they write back to you and say, we got involved, we got nowhere.
Right.
By the way, you still owe us the money for the phone.
Yeah, I accept
That's
that
what they
as
said.
an
No,
amount.
no, no, listen, that's what they said. What you need to do now is to say, fine, under Section 75 of the Consumer Credit Act, you are jointly and severally responsible. I will happily deliver the phone to you if you tell me where to deliver it to, but I want a full cash refund.
Right.
Because the
okay.
goods are not of merchantable quality.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, to the...
See where you get with that.
Right. She did. Sorry, the person from the bank that I or the credit card company. At one stage, about 3 weeks ago, during this, and I just said to her, "What is the process when it finishes?" And she said, "Well, if there's no satisfactory outcome on your behalf between either the manufacturer, the people you bought the phone from, then you'll have to consider suing us, like the credit card company."
Indeed,
or,
that is one of your options.
or the company I bought the phone from.
But first of all, ignore now the company you bought the phone from. They're a bunch of skunks. You'll get
They
no
are,
sense out
yes,
of them.
they
They're run
are.
by thieves, vagabonds and crooks.
They are.
It's hard to find a bank that isn't run by the same people, but no matter. Just simply write back to the credit card company in the format I've just told you and tell them that now under Section 75 Consumer Credit Act, you want your money back off them.
Right.
Full stop.
That's
And when they write back and say you're not having it, say fine, I'll be starting proceedings in the small claims court within 28 days.
Oh, thanks
And then
very
do
much.
it. All right?
This letter, I'll finish on this. This letter really does give you the impression that's it. They've run their course. They tried to help, which they were very polite, and they were helpful. They were phoning the companies involved, and the person dealing with the case used to phone personally and let me know how it was progressing and not. So they were pleasant and helpful, but in the end, they're saying that's it, you know.
Well, indeed,
the cut-off
that is the natural place of banks, to lie to you, to cheat to you, and to try to crook you. That's what they do. That's how they make £1 billion profit a month.
Right.
All right, love, so that's what you do.
Thanks very much.
My pleasure. Good luck
Thanks
with
a
it.
lot.
01612282255. Gordon says, what's the time limit on the credit card kicking in if you have a problem? Gordon, exactly the same time limit as anything else. What a credit card does is it replicates, it doesn't replace, it replicates your rights. So whatever rights you have with the retailer, or for that matter the manufacturer, whatever rights you have are replicated by your credit card company. They are identical too. 01612282255. Bernie in Bolton. Last week I booked a holiday with a company and I paid by credit card. Before paying, I was warned of a £10 credit card fee. I was willing, if not completely happy to pay, as I was booking a flight only and knew from your many previous programmes the benefits of paying this way in view of the Excel collapse, and I feel quite pleased with myself. Bernie in Bolton, I'll bet you do, mate. 01612282255. Good afternoon to you. It's just after 20 to 1. BBC Radio Manchester news headlines. Anna Dawson.
The chief executive of the failed XL Travel Group's warning that it will be extremely difficult to fly home up to 67,000 of the airline's passengers stranded abroad. There's expected to be an announcement later that most or all of the company's 1,700 UK employees will be made redundant, and thousands of passengers have been affected by the firm's collapse at Manchester Airport. A Stockport man's been charged with 25 sexual offences against children, and the fire service is warning it will still be some time before the Channel Tunnel can reopen following yesterday's blaze. Manchester's weather mainly dry and cloudy, highs of 16 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Well, traffic's heavy at the moment on the M6 southbound between 19 at Knutsford and 18 at Middlewich. Just a sheer volume of traffic using that stretch, it seems. Certainly no accidents or incidents to report in that area. In Gorton, Vaughan Street still closed off because of a building fire between Gorton Road and Bennett Street, and it's likely to remain closed off now for the rest of the afternoon. Being told around about 6:30 this evening is when it's due to be reopened. Don't forget, of course, as been hearing today, all XL Airways flights been cancelled because of the company having gone into administration. You can contact the emergency helpline, which is 0800 068 8991, and the Eurostar services have been suspended as well because of a fire, as we heard not so long ago in the news, that occurred yesterday in the Channel Tunnel, and the helpline for that is 08705 186 186 for further assistance. If you can update me on the road situation where you are today, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Will Perry.
Good afternoon. Well, there's some added spice to tomorrow's game at Eastlands when arguably the two richest clubs in the world meet. Manchester City host Luis Felipe Scolari's Chelsea at 5:30, and the Brazilian has reportedly revealed that he turned down an offer from the Blues to become their manager in the summer before Mark Hughes' appointment. Michael Johnson is City's biggest doubt ahead of the game. He missed training this week with a recurrence of a groin problem. Micah Richards is expected to recover from a shoulder injury. Robinho, Elano, Joe and Pablo Zabaleta are being assessed today after their late-night return from South America. Hughes, meanwhile, says he intends to build a team that still involves good homegrown players and insists the side won't simply be filled by big-money signings.
I think it's really important that you have a core of players that have a real empathy for the club, and you get that from players that have come through their ranks and worked their way through, and that's not to the detriment of the squad. They still have to be top quality to be part of what we're trying to do, but thankfully we have got players of that ilk.
Well, we'll have full commentary from Eastlands tomorrow. Kick-off is 5:30. Ian Cheeseman's there as ever. Meanwhile, Chelsea have refused to accept the resignation of assistant manager Steve Clarke. They've also denied West Ham permission to talk to him. Dimitar Berbatov will be unofficially availed as a Manchester United player this lunchtime. He's expected to make his debut at Liverpool tomorrow. BBC Radio Manchester will, of course, be at Anfield. Live reports from 12:40 in the all-new Manchester Sports. Roy Keane has called the Vice President of FIFA a clown and a disgrace in a continuing row over former United striker Dwight Yorke. Keane's withdrawal of Yorke from international duty with Trinidad and Tobago prompted Jack Warner to accuse the Sunderland manager of a callous disregard for smaller countries. Former Manchester City striker Robbie Fowler has signed a 3-month performance-related contract at Blackburn. He goes straight into the squad to face Arsenal tomorrow. In rugby union, Sale Sharks captain Juan Martin Fernandez-Lobe and Lee Thomas have both failed fitness tests for tonight's game with Saracens at Edgeley Park. Sean Cox and Chris Bell replaced them. Sharks centre Luke McAllister knows what to expect from the visitors.
Powell, the 12, he seemed pretty strong. Obviously Jackson's a key man for them. When he's going forward he can be pretty dangerous, but on the back foot, you know, he's not the best, so if we can chuck him on the back foot then their whole side sort of struggles. With the Cock as well, he runs from the base, so he's pretty dangerous. And they've got a pretty solid pack with Chris Jack leading them up there. But if we can get them on the back foot and get some front football for us, I think we can beat them.
We'll kick off 7:45 at Edgeley Park. We've got live updates throughout the evening and full commentary online at bbc.co.uk/Manchester. In Rugby League, Wigan Warriors coach Brian Noble has called on fans to make tonight's big playoff game against Bradford Bulls feel like a home fixture. The Warriors should have home advantage, but can't use the JJB Stadium because Wigan Athletic have a Premier League game there tomorrow. They take on Sunderland. But Noble says they can't dwell on that if they want to win.
It's cup final, it's cup playoffs. It's important that we're not distracted. We'd like our fans to get behind us, to travel to witness and make it like a home venue. Let's make it like it's the JJB and let's have a performance like it's a JJB.
Well, Warrington Wolves are in playoff action tomorrow. They travel to Perpignan to face Catalan. Despite losing their last 4 games of the regular season, Wolves hooker John Clark says the team must go into the game positive and not feeling sorry for themselves.
You can sit here, feel sorry for yourself. We can't do this, we can't do that. We haven't got him, but we're not going to do any of that. We're going to be very positive. We're not bothered who goes, who plays, who doesn't. We're going to go there very positive and go there, relish the challenge and do the business.
Oh, finally, there have been 7 Paralympic golds for Great Britain this morning. Manchester's, I should say this afternoon now. Manchester's Sarah Storey has won her second and Great Britain's 30th gold of the Games. Storey won the women's individual time trial road race event in Beijing, following up Wednesday's gold in the velodrome.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
It is, of course, Wigan against Bradford Bulls in the Super League playoffs at Widnes's Stobart Stadium. We've got full match commentary from 7 tonight.
BBC Radio Manchester.
0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk, and you can text on 07786 206 951. Hang on a minute. Just looking at something. It's all right, stop mithering. I'll be there in a minute. Good God. Yeah. Bloody hell. Did you know? Because I didn't, and I'm supposed to sort of know this kind of stuff. Did you know that your photographic driving licence expires? You know, like your paper one, you've got that until they bury you, effectively. I know you have to, well, we're probably 70-odd. But it's in all the papers today, and I didn't know. And I would have got done, not until the year 2012, as it happens, but that's fast approaching. No, that can't be true. Bloody hell. Yeah. You've got 4A and then 4B. 4B is the date that your licence expires. And you just drive on regardless, because they don't write and tell you, as far as I know. But I'm just looking at mine now, it expires. 14-10, year 12, that's only 3 years off. Did you know? No, I never. Outrageous. Brian in Woodley. Hiya, Brian.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good afternoon.
Neither of them.
I've had a text from a relative of mine, and he's stranded in Rhodes with his business that's gone bust. And the rep has disappeared, and he's texted here to say, have I any information to send him about what's happening? That's why I've rung.
Well, we have no information to send him. I can give you the latest, and the latest is that XL are, to all intents and purposes, busted. They're certainly not trading. If he booked with XL, then it is almost certainly the case that he has protection with ABTA and or ATOL, the air transport operator's licence. And if he gets in touch, the rep's gone, but if he gets in touch with ATOL, and he can get those, or you can get those details for him off the internet, and they will organise a flight home for him. But it won't be, almost certainly won't be immediate, because, unfortunately, there are an awful lot of people in his position. I'm told 67,000, which is a staggering number.
Terrible. Can you get? I haven't got.
You haven't got the internet.
I haven't. No.
Well,
is there a number, Tom?
There is a helpline number, but it's going to be engaged, I assure you.
Yeah.
There is a helpline number. I've not got it immediately to hand, but I will announce it in 10 minutes' time, just after the 1 o'clock news. I'll have it by then. So I've not got it in front of me now. But that's who he needs to get in touch with. He needs also to get in touch with there's no rep in the area because, of course, the rep is an employee of that. But if he gets in touch with the travel insurance, does he have it?
No, I couldn't tell you the details of this trip.
Well, if you get back in touch with him, ask him, has he got travel insurance?
Yes.
Because if he has, he should have with him, it would be wise for him to have with him, the details of his travel insurance organisation. And if he gets in touch with them, they can help him as well.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. I may be able to do a lot for him at this end if I get the information.
Well, I'll give you the phone number. I've got it now. I said I'd give it you after 1 o'clock, but Justin, our producer, has just found it for me. It's a free phone number. You ready?
Yes.
0800...
Yes.
068...
Yes.
8991.
8991. Thank you very much.
0800 068 8991.
I've got it.
If you need it, if you text that back to him now, an 0800 number won't work from abroad, so he'll have to try and find out how to convert that into a landline number. But if he uses his phone to get in touch with international directory inquiries, well, indeed, to get in touch with a directory's firm here, they will give him the number for ATOL or ABTA in the UK.
Yes, thanks very much.
Okay.
Okay, on.
Good on you.
Thank you.
0161228 2255. If you've something to say, feel free. You just have to pick up your phone and call. And Ivor in Stretford says, what's the difference between the phrases not of merchantable quality and not fit for purpose? Nothing, really. Merchantable quality was what was referred to in the past. It's now, because we're dumbing down as a nation, it's now referred to as not fit for purpose. They mean virtually the same thing, so no difference. Not fit for purpose is, if you like, the more modern version of it, that's all. 0161 228 2255.
Mornings sound better with Eamon O'Neill and Diane Oxford.
Eamon and Diane.
I'm fascinated by this Hovis advert. You've been talking me through it.
2-minute advert that takes you through 120 years.
They've got a row of terraced houses. They've got a couple of old cars. How does that get to 15 million? I'd have done it for half for them. I've got the fat old nag.
You've got the fat old nag.
All right, I am the fat old nag.
Eamon and Diane and you.
They are transplanting another heart into his body.
It's not very nice. I was with him in the theatre.
What are the words that you leave each other with? You know, when
I love you.
It's as simple as that.
The station with Eamon and Diane for breakfast.
It blows your mind when you actually think.
Back Monday morning at 6 at BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. 0161 228 2255. If you've something to say, that's perfectly fine. If you're prepared to say it, we're prepared to hear it. Carl in Denton, hi.
Hello, Alan.
Yeah.
Just a quick point. I was listening to your conversation with the lady with the credit card.
Yes.
At the end, you made the point of asking her to sue in the small claims court.
Well, it's now called the small claims procedure in the county court.
Yes. Well, it was just a point that perhaps she might want to do before she was to get there if she did have problems with the credit card company, and that is that normally... she would have to ask for an issue of a final decision letter from the credit card company if they weren't going to pay her out. And in that, it should mention, hopefully, that she can complain to the financial ombudsman.
She
that's
can,
a free service.
It is a free service. It's somewhat convoluted, but she will get the letter to which you refer by way of a response to the letter we advised her to write.
Right.
So they will write back and either say, no, we're not paying you, or, yes, we're paying you. What they're most likely to write back is and say, we've received your letter, we are dealing with it, and then in a fortnight's time, when they've made their decision, they will write. But whatever she gets back will either be final from them, that yes, you can, or final, no, you can't. So she will have that letter.
Well, the point I'm making is that I hadn't noticed that I'd had a final letter from the lender that I was dealing with, and the financial ombudsman said that they would need to issue the final decision letter before they can actually get involved. So that was why I was just phoning up and
Okay,
obviously mentioning that she can use that service.
She can indeed use that service. The Financial Services Ombudsman will look. Well, they look at decisions in principle. In other words, if the credit card company said no, this isn't covered by the Financial Services. By the Consumer Credit Act, they would look at that. If the credit card company, or if she was alleging maladministration, the Financial Services Ombudsman doesn't get involved in they won't give me my money and I'm entitled to it. That's for the courts. And the courts have an arbitration scheme that you go through if you choose to, and it's wise to first. So they deal with maladministration, they deal even with misinterpretation of the regs, but they don't do individual casework in that way.
No, but that might be the line that, again, might wind it up in terms of, getting in touch with the Ombudsman, might address it.
If she writes to the credit card company and actually says in her letter, Section 75 of the Consumer Credit Act, they will read it and say, this woman has had advice, she will not go away. We either pay or we don't pay today.
Okay.
That's how it works.
No problem.
Always, when you write to people of that ilk, what you have to do is you have to make them think what you want them to think. In other words, you want them, if you write and say, please give me my money back, they think, toss her, don't pay her. Yeah. If you write and say, this is what's going to happen next, and I understand the procedure, they'll say, not going away, what's the best decision? Cheapest decision, give her the 200 quid.
Fair enough.
Good on you, mate. Thanks for your help.
Cheers.
0161 228 2255. If you've something to say, that's fine. All you have to do is pick up your phone. 0161 228 2255. Dave says, info from DirectGov website. Renewing the photo on your driving licence. In most circumstances, you'll need to renew the photo on your driving licence before it expires, as the photo's only valid for 10 years. If you're a short period licence holder, in other words, you're over 70, you'll need to renew your photo when your driving entitlement expires. Indeed, renewing the photo. But your driving licence actually expires. It becomes illicit to use it. It becomes no longer viable, no longer valid, and you can get fined. And I don't remember anyone telling me that. Jacqueline in Lee. Hiya, Jacqueline.
Hiya. It's about the driving licence. My daughter-in-law rang me this morning and said she'd heard that, all that about the driving licence. So I had a look on the card and on the green counterpart. Nothing to tell me when I had taken it out, and I was panicking. So I rang the DVLA and they said it's Part 4A and Part 4B. Part 4A tells you when you took it out, and Part 4B tells you when it runs out, but they are so close together, I couldn't make it out.
Well, yeah, they're just there, aren't they? But 4A, well, I won't tell you the dates on mine, but 4A, yes, and then 4B.
I mean,
well, the 4A is not actually when you took it out.
Oh.
It's not quite that. It's when the licence was issued, which doesn't mean the same thing.
Oh, right.
Because the licence I have in front of me, which is mine, says that it was 4A is the 26th of July 2008.
Yeah.
Now, that's not the day that the licence proper was issued. That's the day that this particular licence replaced one that was stolen.
Oh, right.
So it's not the date of issue. The date of issue is a slightly different date. That's the date you originally apply for a photograph licence, this licence. The date of original application is some years ago in my case. But 4B, you are correct, 4B is the date it expires. So on the 14th of October 2012, on the 15th, if I'm relying on this licence, I'll be driving illegally.
Well, I have another 10 years and I've just got away with 3 points and a fine, so I thought if this...
You've just got away? What do you mean you've just got away?
Well, not... well, I've just got let off, I should say.
You got let off?
Yes, because I had a vinegar Vera stop me. OK, I did drive through a no end.
Oh, and she said, that's all right, go on, have a good day.
No, he didn't. And
Excellent. Excellent. Good on you, Jacqueline. Good on you. Thank you very much indeed. We're all intrigued beyond all measure at how you get off.
the nation struggles to shed the pounds.
One young man from Oldham shows you how to lose weight.
Eamon and Diane.
Monday from 6.
Cut your leg off, you'll use pounds overnight. 0161228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk and text number 07786 206 951.
95.1 FM,
DAB Digital Radio,
and the World Wide Web.
This is Manchester.
BBC Radio Manchester.
O'clock, misery for tens of thousands of passengers after the UK's third largest tour operator collapses. We're live at Manchester Airport. And a Stockport man's charged with 25 sexual offences against children.
And Scolari says he turned down City for the Blues at Stamford Bridge.
It's a cloudy afternoon with some scattered showers around and a high of 17 Celsius.
And if you're travelling on the M6 southbound, expect delays between 19 at Knutsford and 18 Middlewich.
Good afternoon, I'm Anna Dawson. It's been a long morning of upset and frustration for customers of the failed holiday firm XL. The business went into administration last night, leaving tens of thousands of people stranded abroad and thousands more turning up to airports this morning to find their holidays cancelled. Well, our reporter Matt Truern's been at Manchester Airport this morning. Matt, what's the picture there for people who've been hoping to go on holiday today?
Yes, well, as you say, misery, frustration and despair from hundreds, if not thousands, of people who've seen their holidays ruined. This is Terminal 2, the home of XL here at Manchester Airport, and the information desks have been chock-a-block all morning with passengers desperately trying to rebook flights and try to salvage their holiday in some way or another. We've heard stories of a bride and groom due to marry tomorrow on a Greek island trying to find another way of getting there. I spoke to a family from Warrington who've managed to book an alternative flight to Florida, but they have no idea if they'll be able to stay at the villa that they booked because it was booked through XL. So confusion everywhere, and Russell Craig from the airport warns it'll continue into the weekend.
We had 7 flights departing today, 4 arrivals. We were expecting 14 other departures and arrivals over the weekend, and if people haven't heard the news or have booked with one of the subsidiaries and they're not familiar with the connection to XL, they may well turn up and be disappointed. So a very difficult weekend and some bitterly disappointed people.
Well, what about people trying to get home to the UK? What's the situation there?
Well, yes, of course, there'll be thousands of people who will be stuck abroad trying to get back to Manchester, unsure when and how they'll be able to do that. This woman and her family, well, they were on a plane that was taxiing at an airport in Florida when they were told to get off the plane and leave the airport.
They've told us that we should go and sleep on the street with the children because we're not their responsibility. What's happened is not our fault. All we want to do is go home. They've told us that they're going to bus us out, and if we can't bus us out, if we can't afford to pay for a hotel, we've got to sit on the street.
Well, around 400 passengers were already on an XL flight back to Manchester from Florida when the company went bust in the early hours. They've now landed in Paris and they will be brought home to Manchester on 2 separate flights this afternoon. Now, we've heard a lot about people losing their holidays, but just spare a thought for the hundreds of XL staff based here at Manchester who've lost their jobs this morning. I spoke to cabin crew who told me that they arrived first thing. All they were told was, right, let's have your passes taken away from you, and simply told that there'll be a letter in the post, but basically, goodbye, your jobs are gone.
Matt Truern at Manchester Airport, thanks very much indeed. And for a full list of companies that are affected, you can go to the news section of our website, bbc.co.uk/Manchester. There's also a helpline number for people who want to find out about flights in the UK, 0800 068 8991. In other news, a Stockport man's been charged with 25 sexual offences against 5 girls and boys, all less than 16 years old. The 54-year-old from Cheadle's charged with indecent assault, attempted aggravated rape, assault and gross indecency on the children between 1974 and 2007. He's been bailed to appear before Stockport magistrates next Friday. Fire investigators are preparing to go into a set of buildings in Gorton which were badly damaged in a fire in the early hours of this morning. The fire began in a linen warehouse and spread to nearby buildings. The fire service is warning it'll still be some time before the Channel Tunnel can reopen following yesterday's blaze. The fire that's believed to have been started on a lorry on a freight train burnt for 16 hours. All services have been suspended, causing misery for thousands of passengers. Kent's Chief Fire Officer Bill Feely says they have to be careful.
What we've got to do to ensure safety of future passengers, our crews down there, both on the British and the French side, is to ensure that first of all this fire is properly extinguished. Thereafter, as you say, there's still a big job of work to make sure the investigation is done properly. That means preserving the scene of the fire to make sure we've got all the evidence that's properly available to us.
And large quantities of heroin, cocaine and cannabis have been seized by police in a dawn raid in Oldham this morning. They went to a house on Cardigan Road in Hollingwood just after 7, and a man and a woman were arrested on possessing drugs with intent to supply.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Will Perry.
Good afternoon. Well, arguably the two richest clubs in the world meet tomorrow afternoon. Manchester City host Luis Felipe Scolari's Chelsea, and the Brazilian revealed that he's turned down an offer from the Blues to become their manager in the summer before Mark Hughes' appointment at Eastlands. Meanwhile, Chelsea have refused to accept the resignation of assistant manager Steve Clarke. They've also denied West Ham permission to talk to him. We'll have full match commentary from Eastlands tomorrow. Kick-off is at 5:30. Dimitar Berbatov will be officially unveiled as a Manchester United player this lunchtime. He's expected to make his debut at Liverpool tomorrow. BBC Radio Manchester will, of course, be at Anfield. Live reports from 12:40 in the all-new Manchester Sports, and you can hear from Berbatov later this afternoon. Former Manchester City striker Robbie Fowler has signed a 3-month performance-related contract at Blackburn. Manchester's Sarah Storey has won her second gold at the Paralympics. She won the women's individual time trial road race event in Beijing, following up Wednesday's gold in the Velodrome. Sale Sharks captain Juan Martin Fernandez-Lobbe and Lee Thomas have both failed fitness tests for tonight's game with Saracens at Edgley Park. Sean Cox and Chris Bell replace them. Kick-off 7:45. We've got live updates throughout the evening and full match commentary online at bbc.co.uk/Manchester. And in Rugby League, Wigan host Bradford in the Super League playoffs at Widnes this evening. Full match commentary here from 7.
BBC Radio Manchester satellite weather with Eno Erator.
Well, you're looking at a day which is mostly overcast, and because there's so much cloud cover in the sun, it does feel rather cool out there, although there isn't much wind movement. Now, through the afternoon, you are going to get some scattered showers popping up here and there, but still staying dull, and temperatures peaking at a high of 17 Celsius.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester. My godfathers. First of all, Jeff says via text his driving licence expires on his 70th birthday. Well, yes, it does, as indeed does everybody's. However, there is another issue. If you have the photographic licence, if you have the paper one, then it's a different kettle of fish. But if you have the photographic one, it expires effectively after 10 years. And rather than wade through the newspapers and give you the details, or even wade through my own personal information service, or worse still, my memory, I'll read you Christopher's email. I can't see what all the fuss is about, he says, with these licences. I was aware years ago that you had to pay a renewal fee when I considered getting one, but I read the full terms of use, so both my wife and I still use our paper ones. And Christopher in Middleton also says, the old git, I've even still got my little red book style one. My God, Christopher, what did you pass on? What car were you driving when you passed your... I bet you never did a test. You must be about 900 years old. No, I've got mine as well, mate. No, I kept it in a little drawer, and I've still got it. Brian gives us a bit more detail, but then he would. Alan, a few months back, I did some research on this with the DVLA, as I live in Spain. He does like to tell us that from time to time. And according to it, the DVLA that is, my licence, it seemingly expires in 2011. What I discovered was that the date indicated by 4B on the licence is the date by which the photograph must be updated. Of course, the effect is the same in that the new licence will be issued with the new photograph. What I've read in the UK press, however, has made no reference to the date referring to the photograph. So until I dig back into the DVLA website, I am no doubt as confused as a lot of people will be. One thing the site did say is that it would be possible for them to electronically capture my photograph from the photographic information held by the passport authorities, rendering it unnecessary to send a new photograph. I wonder if any of your listeners are aware of the photographic requirement. Well, I wasn't, Brian, and I generally know these kind of things because I'm a bit like that. But most of the articles I've read, and once you've read it in one newspaper, you only skim read it in others, even in this job. But most of the articles I've read in the newspapers do refer to the photograph. But, of course, you're probably reading... I have no idea, but if you're in Spain at the moment, the chances are you're reading either the overseas version of the newspaper or you're reading the website version, and it might not appear there. I've actually got the hard copies here, and it does appear generally. David, I know not where, says the firm he works for, which incidentally is one of the oldest and best coach operators in the country, do not charge extra for credit card or debit card payments. Well done you. That's the case with most organisations. 01612282255 if you've something to say. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk if you want to email, and you can text on 07786 206 951. Anne in Stockport. Hi, Anne.
Hello.
What can we do for you?
Well, it's nothing really. It was your operator that made me... I'm better than the news, you see, on this XL thing.
Oh, go on.
Well, hang fire. Don't do anything about it. It is utter chaos. It is no good you ringing anybody. You wait till they contact you in 2 or 3 days. That's the only information you give them.
Yeah.
So...
What, when you get onto the 0800 number?
Doesn't matter. It doesn't... At first, it was the travel agents passing it to XL passing it back.
Yes.
But now, when you get through to them all, it's, we cannot do anything about it. Will you wait till you are contacted? Which could be 2 or 3 days.
It could be 2 or 3 days. If you're ringing in this country about a trip that is about to start or due to start, that's the answer you'll get, without a doubt.
Without a doubt, I've done it.
That's fairly standard.
That is. It's no good. They will contact you.
That's because all the energy at the moment is being used to get 67,000 people home.
Exactly, and the hotels don't even know where they're up to.
No, they don't. They're going to miss out as well. This is going to cost a lot of other people their jobs.
It's chaos, but the Greeks being the Greeks, they're having a meeting this afternoon, and a lot of the hotels have assured people you won't be on the streets. As long as you're not at the airport.
Yeah.
Like that gentleman was worried about his son, was it?
I think it was just a friend.
Well, whatever.
I say just a friend. Friends are sometimes friends are more important than sons often, aren't they?
If she's not at the airport, apparently they are going to. Well, you will find the odd story that people won't care and they'll pitch them out, but it's horrific. And I just feel so heartbroken. I mean, I'm upset myself that I'm not going, but at least I'm here.
At least you're here, yes.
And I've not got children with me at the airport, but apparently that's what I was told an hour ago.
Okay, and how are you...
no good you phoning anybody.
And well, let's not say quite that.
Well, you know
phone
what I mean.
by all means, but
you know what I mean.
If you're not yet on holiday and about to go, then you are quite correct.
Fire.
And how did you pay for your holiday?
I paid for it by a normal travel agent.
No, that's where you paid for it. What process of payment? Did you pay cash or credit card or...?
Cash.
You paid cash.
Which was unfortunate for me.
It may well prove to be that, yes. All right, well, okay. But check also your travel insurance.
Yeah.
Check that there's something there for you.
Yeah, as I said, at the moment, once you get over the upset, it's like you just sit back and say, well, OK, that's happened, this is what I'll have to do now.
Well, life goes on. As I was reading this morning about the XL and how people were desperately upset, and I understand that.
Yeah.
I read in the same newspaper that 25,000 children below the age of 5 die every day on this planet. And I thought, I'd lose a holiday if we could swap that.
Well, this is what... My friend lives in London, you see, so she's got the chaos from Gatwick, as I've got from Manchester, because we meet up. Yeah. And obviously she said the same, it's worse at Gatwick. And then our friends who we're going to in the hotel have rang early morning, and they were the first, you know, to ask us what was going on. They didn't even know. But shame on them all, because yesterday, I just looked in the brochure this morning, shame on them. Yesterday, 3 flights from Manchester, 3 flights from Heathrow took out.
Oh, absolutely.
That is 6 flights knowing that they were going bust.
Well, you see, the trouble is the law requires that they continue to operate, because all that would happen if they said at lunchtime yesterday, right, let's go bust, then they'd have done business that morning. So if they said at midnight the night before, let's go bust, well, they'd have done business that day.
True.
You have to go bust at a point.
Yeah.
And until then, you've not gone bust. I suspect that all yesterday, the chief executive that we were listening to striking his eyes out earlier, you don't want to hit him with a stick, don't you? But anyway, him, I suspect he spent all yesterday trying to get a bank to give them the money to keep trading.
Yeah.
So all the time there was hope.
Yeah.
And if he'd said to everybody, well, we're not taking any more holidays, we're going to try and get some money to run it, they'd say, well, you're not running a business.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's just my heart goes out to these people stuck at the airport with children.
Absolutely. Mind you,
as you said, in context, I've just lost 14 days in the sun. I could have been in the Eurotunnel last week.
You could have been in the Eurotunnel, absolutely. God almighty.
Hey, for once, Alan, we're not falling out.
We're not. Hey, don't worry, I'll find something. Just keep talking, woman.
Every day you find something for me. I'm a nervous wreck with you, because I don't get 2 hours. I don't get 2 hours to listen to you. And I go in the car and I nearly smash the car, and I'm thinking, where's the phone? Where's the phone? I'll have him.
Good to talk to you, Anne.
Right, bye.
0161 228 2255. Andy, with you in a minute.
This is the Northwest's biggest sports station. This is BBC Radio Manchester.
It's the battle of the billionaires.
Shaw Wright Phillips on the far side of the box scores on his second debut.
Chelsea visit Eastlands to take on Manchester City, who now have the wealthiest owner and the most expensive player.
Comes into it, rolls the ball into the bottom corner of the net. That is pure class from Robinho.
It's third versus first in the Premier League. Manchester City versus Chelsea on BBC Radio Manchester. It's where the smart money is.
The all-new Manchester Sports. Tomorrow at 12:40. BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. How are you? Excellent. 0161 228 2255. Andy in Manchester. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Alan. How's you, sir?
One is well.
That is good. That is good.
Yeah.
Right, just before the 1 o'clock news, you did a little piece, short snippet, the difference between merchantable quality and fit for purpose.
Yeah, you're not going to get picky with me, are you?
Well, there is a difference.
I
in
know.
that if, say, for instance, you go into a shop and you say, I want a computer, and the minute you turn the computer on, it fails. That is not of merchantable quality.
Correct.
But if you go into a shop and say, I want a computer and I want it specifically for playing games on, it must have the best graphics card, the best memory, and the fellow says, here you go, sir, this is the one that you want. You take it out, you put a game in, it freezes up, it is not fit for purpose, although it is of merchantable quality as a computer.
That is correct. But, you're absolutely correct, and rather, I could have, and I'm not accusing you of being a pedant, but I could have gone into the pedantry of the specifics. But I took the question when asked, I took the question to mean what is the difference effectively, which is why I replied that effectively they are the same. And in truth, the merchantability of a product is no longer referred to in the legislation, and it is its fit for purpose that is used. And you're almost bob on with your definition. There is a slight rider to almost bob on, and that is that if you buy it and it is fit for purpose, it is to do what you asked of it to do, and it then breaks down, that can also be non-merchantable, not of merchantable quality, or not fit for purpose, on the grounds that it didn't do it for long enough.
The rider on that in the Supply of Goods and Services Act of 2002, which came into force, or parts of it, in March the 31st, 2003. If an item proves to be faulty within 6 months of the date of purchase, it's then deemed to not have been merchantable quality on the day of purchase.
Indeed so. Indeed so. As I say, the effect of both definitions is almost identical. In terms of, by effect, I mean the redress that is available. And if you went to court claiming it was non-merchantable, when in truth you should have been claiming it was not fit for purpose, your case would not die.
Oh, no, it wouldn't die, but a judge could be a little bit awkward on his award should he prove to be successful on a technicality.
I have to agree with the phrase, the judge could be, because judges are frequently, and this is something that every lawyer in the land will argue at, but judges are frequently a law unto themselves. But in truth, your case would not fail. And I don't think there are many lower court judges, and by that I mean the small claims procedure of the county court, less than £5,000, given that it was set up to deal with cases without incurring legal costs on either side. The whole project is, if you like, citizen law. There are not any judges operating in that area with the degree of legal pedantry that you refer to, because the whole small claims procedure could not survive that.
Oh, no, I appreciate that, but I've had a couple of incidents where I've been solicitor advocate and Mackenzie's friend for people.
Well, solicitor advocate and Mackenzie's friend are very, very specific terms, so you better tell me which one it is, because people...
Well, a Mackenzie friend is somebody that acts for a person.
No, it's not.
But not necessarily legally qualified.
Well, no, that's wrong. A Mackenzie is not allowed to act for. A Mackenzie is someone who is entitled to sit alongside the plaintiff, or in some cases the defendant, but sit alongside what we now call the claimant, and explain what they should be saying to get their point across, but they're not allowed to speak on their behalf, unless the judge and sometimes the magistrate says, oh, for God's sake, get on with it. But they're not allowed to. A Mackenzie is not a representative, but an assistant.
Yeah, and he's a non-legally qualified assistant who can, in certain circumstances, speak on behalf of the plaintiff or the defendant, if the defendant or plaintiff is not, for reasons of health, able to conduct the defence or the complaint.
Well, again, seeing as how we're in the realms of pedantry, the Mackenzie can never, ever make the case for the person, but can only ever be the voice of the person. And you know the distinction. Yeah, you know the distinction.
Correct. Whereas the solicitor advocate is somebody who's legally qualified but sits there as
quite so.
A Bible to be referred to, so to speak.
Indeed. I'm not sure that Bible's the word you were looking for, Andy. Good on you, mate. Thank you very much indeed.
All these people with Excel, I mean, my sympathies go out for you. But please think about all the hundreds of people that, at the moment, not just losing 14 days holiday, but losing the homes as well, the way things are going.
Well, yes, that is also to be considered. I said earlier when talking to Anne, I think it was, that when I read about Excel this morning and thought those poor beggars, I saw on the next page that 25,000 children below the age of 5 die every day in the world. And I thought, and sometimes literally for a pinch of salt. Quite extraordinary. Good on you, Andy.
I think half of that is down to the fact that the other half of the world where they survive is just greedy and they take up all the stuff that the 25,000 need.
Indeed, people going on £1,000 holidays means that somewhere in the world 1,000 children die. It's a little late, I apologise for that, but it's just gone 1:20 on BBC Radio Manchester News Headlines. Anna Dawson.
It's been a day of upset and frustration for customers of the failed holiday firm Excel. The UK's third biggest tour operator went into administration last night, leaving tens of thousands of people stranded abroad and thousands more turning up at airports this morning to find their holidays cancelled. Thousands of people have been affected at Manchester Airport. A Stockport man's been charged with 25 sexual offences against children, and operators say the Channel Tunnel won't be open for the moment after a fire 7 miles from the French entrance yesterday. Manchester's weather mainly dry and cloudy, highs of 16 Celsius.
And when we say 7 miles from the entrance, we mean inside. It wasn't in a field 7 miles. You know, it's quite...
Allan Beswick.
Just me, don't worry.
On the phones.
0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Well, oh, very good. Gordon says, I thought Mackenzie was a fashion product trademark. Well, yes, it is. I can't remember now where the term Mackenzie comes from. I know what it means, as we just demonstrated in our conversation with Andy, but I can't remember where it comes from. It's a long, long time ago. Perhaps I should look it up. But a Mackenzie is effectively... A Mackenzie is a friend. When everyone appears in court, for whatever reason, you don't necessarily have to have a lawyer. But you might want someone who will help you. Someone who will help you... You might not be good at words, as they say, so someone who will help you to say that which you want to say. And you might want to... You might not be able to understand what the lawyers are saying or what the other side is saying. And a Mackenzie, your friend, is entitled to sit alongside you and explain proceedings to you and explain what is going on. That's a Mackenzie. Does anybody know where the term comes from? I used to know, but have forgotten. I may look it up. Beatrice in Manchester. Hiya.
Hello.
How can we help?
About 3 months ago, my husband died, and he died intestate and left. He had 27.5% of the house because we were divorced, and all through the years that he left us with my children, he's not really contributed financially to any help. And I received a letter from his... He remarried a short time ago, and I received a letter from his widow's solicitors saying that she wanted a charge to be put on my house, his share of the property, so that for my children. We were hoping to move house, but now I might end up having to pay my own children a large sum of money because of this, and if I dispute it, then she can come in and take 27.5% of my house.
Well, first of all, she almost certainly can't come and take 25% of your house, almost certainly. In other words, she almost certainly, you need a lawyer to read the documents to be precise, but she almost certainly cannot say, sell the house, I'll have 27.5%. However, the 27.5% is presumably the property, for want of a better term, of the children of the union, your children with your husband, yes?
Yes, but I've already made a will saying that when I die, my children get the house.
Doesn't matter about your will. We're talking about your husband, your ex-husband. Now, your ex-husband was intestate, but his estate owns 27.5% of your property by mutual agreement some time ago, I presume.
Yeah?
Right. Now, that 27.5% continues to be the property of his estate, which means that if he has willed it, or if it passes to his children naturally under the laws of intestate, they own that 27.5% instead of him owning it, effectively. Okay?
Right.
Now, if you sell the property, if you sell it,
yes,
that 27.5% would probably need to be put into trust for the beneficiaries of the estate. Now, there are some arguments about that, first of all, but that's the gist of it. But they can't make you sell. Okay, so what they do is they put a charge against the property as a 27.5% charge, so that on the occasion of the sale of the property, 27.5% of the equity passes to the beneficiaries of that charge. Now, that charge, at the moment, I suspect, is your deceased ex-husband's estate, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that's that. Now, It might be possible to do a number of things. First of all, it might remain as it is, full stop. But it might be possible. Do your children with your ex-husband still reside with you, or do they?
Yes.
They do. Okay. Then, let us assume it is just an assumption here, because you need to talk to a lawyer. But let us assume that you sold the house and moved into another one with your children. Because you are the sole carer of those children, it is perfectly reasonable for the 27.5% of this house to be converted into 27.5% of the house you buy. Mm-hmm. So that the money won't have to be given to your children, because they will need somewhere to live, and they can't live in 72.5% of a house. They need a whole house to live in, yeah?
Right.
So that's possible. It's also possible that the 27.5%, whilst you can't change that, it's possible that your children or you can make a claim against his estate, because he should have been paying for the children even though he wasn't, and he does have an obligation, his estate has an obligation to, if you like, make arrangements for the future maintenance of the children. So they might have a bigger claim on his estate than the 27.5%. I don't know. And no one will know ad hoc. You will need to go to a lawyer. You'll need to have a lawyer walk through it with you and find out whether, A, you can challenge the rules at the other end. So he's died, but his obligations to his children are not dead. Mm. So where does that come from? Well, OK, he's getting 27.5% equity in the property to go to the children. Well, OK, but that doesn't give them any maintenance. You may be able to make a claim against his estate. I mean, I know there's no will, but you may be able to make a claim against his estate for some kind of... You might even... I mean, presumably, as he's died, there's value in the property he's living in.
I'm not sure if it was rented or not.
No one will be sure at this stage, but he's died leaving a will. Imagine he was a millionaire. He dies leaving £1 million, and his ex-children... Sorry, they're not ex-children. The children of his ex-relationship get nothing. No. We've got 27% of the house, but that was the devise of the division of the marriage spoils. What about our futures? What about our education? What about our food? Who is meant to keep us? Because he was meant to keep us. Mm. So where's the money there? So you may actually be able to claim from his estate, and it's perfectly feasible, I didn't say probable or even possible, it is feasible that you could levy a charge against his property.
Oh, great.
Well, it's only a possibility. There are so many things. It's a mess. The usual mess when somebody dies intestate, but it is possible that you have a claim, or your children have a claim against his estate. Now, if his estate is the equity in a property that he's bought with his new partner, well, fine. He's still got an obligation to his children of a former relationship, so it's possible that such a claim can be made. A lawyer will advise you, and, hey, it's perfectly possible that the 27% is bartered away in return for your charge against his estate.
Oh, that's good.
So the 27% is part of his estate, but you have a claim against the estate on behalf of your children, possibly. So that's where you go, to a lawyer.
We can't really afford legal help.
Well, you can't afford legal help cash-wise, and that makes life difficult. What I suggest you do is one of two things, or both. Make an appointment with a lawyer, and say when you... This is crucial. Say when you're making the appointment, I have a complicated matter I wish to discuss with a lawyer to see whether there is a case to look at. okay? And I want that interview free of charge. And lawyers, because they fish in the market, sometimes have to put worms on their hook, and frankly, many, many lawyers would give you a free first interview. Now, what he might say to you is that little fat bloke on the wireless is talking crap and you'd be wasting your time and your energy. He might say there is a case worth pursuing, in which case you talk to him about what that would cost and how he might get the money. Because it is, again, I use the word possible, it is possible, only possible, that if there is any resistance to your claim, that the other side and you start to rack up costs and the money basically just is frittered away in legal fees. So it is possible that the other side may well settle.
So we can't actually do it on our own. We've got to have professional help.
The problem is, Beatrice, I wouldn't do it on my own, and I have a reasonable understanding of the rules, but I wouldn't do it on my own, simply because it's a complete and utter minefield. Challenging a will is very, very difficult indeed. There isn't a will here. It just got twice as hard.
Right.
And frankly, what you're talking about are, I mean, first of all, I mean, little things that, on the face of it, don't matter. He's died, his debts haven't. Was there any agreement for maintenance? Ever?
Well, I had to get the CSA onto him, but he kept, he reneged.
So there is an agreement for maintenance?
He went back to college, and apparently because he did that, he didn't have to pay any.
But are there any arrears?
I don't think so. I think it was...
Okay, well, we'll just, that's one of the questions, you see. If there were arrears, well, that's money that's owed. Just like if it was owed to the bank, or owed to the gas board, or owed to me, they're money that's owed. So you could claim that straight away. Now, what needs to happen here is somebody needs to sit down with you and go through all the paperwork. I said there were one of two things you could do, possibly both. Try the lawyer route, but also make an appointment with your nearest Citizens Advice Bureau, and go in there and see them, because they deal with this all the time as well, and they are free.
Right.
Now, they can only tell you how to go about it. They won't take the case on specifically for you in fighting a case against the estate. Okay?
Thank you.
So there are things that can be done. They are complicated and, frankly, in the end, expensive. But the most important thing at this stage is, don't worry, she cannot say to you, 27.5% of that house is mine, sell it, I want my money. Because it's not hers for a start, it's the children. And which children? Presumably, are there any of your children living in the home of your ex-husband?
No.
So the children... Well, the 27.5% is almost certainly your children's, but please don't accept that. Please get proper advice.
Well, thank you for your advice. It's been very helpful.
Well, we'll see. Let's hope it works. Okay. Have a good day. Bye-bye now. 0161228 2255. If you've got something to say, well, Gerrit said, why not? Have you anything to offer to Beatrice, who was just on? How? Well, yes. Hang on. It would not be the fat little bloke on the radio has talked crap, of course. Gordon, it often might be. But thank you for that universal endorsement. I think it's a first for you as well, yeah. Keith says, Alan, I always thought he had the perfect face for radio, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, I know, yeah. We don't care. 0161 228 2255. By the way, are you taking advice from yesterday morning and rubbing carrot juice into your hair? Keith, no, it's like this, just on its own. Just on its own. 0161 228 2255. Do come along and join in if you so desire. Life is so very easy. And Ricky from Preston, just a small piece of information, as I've just heard you talking about ABTA and ATOL. contact numbers. For anyone stranded by XL's collapse, this morning news has broken that EasyJet are prepared for a flat fee of £75, all-inclusive, to fly stranded XL passengers back to the UK. So if you're stuck abroad, or if you know people who are stuck abroad and they're near an EasyJet outlet, then get in touch with the customer call centre. That's the important thing, and you will need your XL booking reference, because if you don't, everyone will be phoning up and saying, "Take us back for £75, will you?" But that's one way back. And, of course, that £75 could be recoverable, not against XL, but against your credit card or any of those people. But that's another way back. I suspect the XL airline operators will be looking at exactly that procedure as well. And a good question from Doug, and that is, why is it only the British part of XL.com that's gone bust and not the French and German parts of the company? If it's a group, are these two not part of the group, or are they run as separate companies? I suspect they're run, I don't know, I suspect they're run as entirely independent, freestanding, limited companies and have the benefits of being entirely separate companies. I suspect, but I don't know. We will have to see how that pans out in the none-too-distant. And I was on holiday in Turkey, says an emailer, a few years ago when the airline we were due to travel home on ceased trading. We were delayed by 30 hours and spent a night in a hotel near the airport. No problem, just a delay. Judging by the behaviour of all the other passengers, you'd have thought it was the end of the world. They seemed to think that screaming and shouting at the reps would result in an aircraft appearing as if by magic. I feel sorry for those who were to travel outward by XL, but those returning will only be delayed. Those suffering most will be the employees, now looking for work. Indeed. It's hard to argue.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020.
I don't know how we got there, but no matter. It's just gone 20 to 2 on BBC Radio Manchester, and of course what we should be having right now are the news headlines with Rachel Ferguson.
Manchester Airport's expecting dozens of passengers to turn up over the weekend, not knowing that their holiday's been booked to the failed holiday firm XL. The UK's third biggest tour operator went into administration last night, leaving tens of thousands of people stranded abroad, and thousands more turning up at airports this morning to find their holidays have been cancelled. A Stockport man's been charged with 25 sexual offences against children over a period of more than 30 years. And operators say the Channel Tunnel won't be open for the moment after a fire 7 miles from the French entrance yesterday. Manchester's weather, mainly dry and cloudy, highs of 16 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Traffic on the M6 southbound's eased up now between 19 Knutsford and 17 Sandbach. It was looking built up for a time, but within the last 15 minutes or so, it does seem to have quietened down considerably. As we've just heard there, the Eurotunnel services have been suspended because of yesterday's fire in the Channel Tunnel. So the tunnel is closed to all trains, and Eurotunnel have advised passengers that all day trips have been cancelled up to and including the 14th of September. Passengers must have a pre-booked ticket and will be sent to Doverport instead, but there is an emergency helpline. That's 08705 35 35 35. And of course, XL Airways have cancelled all flights because the company's gone into administration. Again, there's another emergency helpline available for passengers on 08705 900 927. Don't forget, if you can update me further today, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Cara Banks.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports.
Good afternoon, I'm Ian Cheeseman. Fernando Torres and Steven Gerrard have been pass fit to face Manchester United for Liverpool tomorrow. Later this afternoon, we'll hear from Reds' new boy, Dimitar Berbatov. Wigan's Steve Bruce is the latest local manager to call for more homegrown talent to be given a chance with the Premier League club as he prepares to face Manchester United. Teammate Roy Keane and Sunderland tomorrow. Bruce told BBC Radio Manchester that more British and Irish managers, rather than those from further afield, should be getting the jobs in England's top division.
You know, we're not giving them any encouragement. I think the last one to do it before Paul Ince is probably David Moyes at Preston. And look at the job he's done. You know, most English managers now are British or Irish. We've got to probably take a team into the Premier League constantly. You know, we're going to give them the job to foreign people, which I don't mind, don't get me wrong, but we're not going to really encourage trying to get the best British managers.
Bolton Wanderers take on Fulham at Craven Cottage tomorrow without captain Gary Cahill, who serves the final match of his 3-game suspension. Wanderers boss Gary Megson, though, is hopeful that Matty Taylor and Johan Almander may feature.
Time will tell, but they're certainly closer. But the only time that I have been able to feel what I would consider the strongest side was the first game against Stoke, and since then we've had to contend with the loss of Cahill, Taylor and Almander, which is a big loss for a team of our size.
Stockport boss Jim Gannon says he's spoken to Manchester City about taking some of their younger players on loan. With City's new owners looking to spend big, some of the academy products might have to ply their trade elsewhere, and Gannon says they'd be welcome at Edgeley Park.
We've already spoke to Mark Hughes and Mark Bowen about some of their players, and we could offer them an opportunity for their players to come out and get league experience, which would be important. But I think so many of their young players are that good that they'd be looking to be playing in the Championship, and you may well see a stage in the future where their players go out on loan to other Premiership clubs. But I'd hate to become a nursery club for those. We're trying to, if you like, produce our own players, but there's an opportunity here for young Manchester City players to get a taste of league football, and it does them no harm in their progress to the top of the game.
Elsewhere, Chelsea have refused to accept the resignation of assistant manager Steve Clarke. They've also denied West Ham permission to talk to him. And Roy Keane has called the vice president of FIFA a clown and a disgrace in a continuing row over Dwight Yorke. Wigan Warriors coach Brian Noble has called on fans to make tonight's playoff game against Bradford Bulls feel like a home fixture. The Warriors should have home advantage but can't use the JJB Stadium because Wigan Athletic have a Premier League game there tomorrow. But Noble says they can't dwell on that if they want to win.
It's cup final, it's cup playoffs. It's important that we're not distracted. We'd like our fans to get behind us, to travel to witness and make it like a home venue. Let's make it like it's the JJB and let's have a performance like it's a JJB.
Sale Sharks captain Juan Martin Fernandez-Lobbe and Lee Thomas have both failed fitness tests for tonight's game with Saracens at Edgeley Park. Sean Cox and Chris Bell replace them. Kick-offs at 7:45 at Edgeley Park. Regular updates throughout the evening. And there have been 4 Paralympic golds for Britain this morning. Britain's Sarah Shorey has won her second. She won the women's individual time trial road race event, following on Wednesday's gold in the velodrome.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
It's that huge rugby league game, Wigan against Bradford Bulls in Super League from Widnes Stobart Stadium. Full match commentary from 7.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Betty in Salford. How are you doing, Betty? Oh, dearie me. Betty, I'll have to shout louder than that, so he's not there. 0161 228 2255. If you want to join us, that's fine. Brian says, and I didn't know this, I didn't read it. Alan, at a news conference this morning, the boss of XL said that the French and German companies were unaffected and gave the reason that they, unlike the UK company, were permitted to raise prices in line with rising oil prices after a client's booking had been made, something prohibited to XL in the UK. Well, I thought that was European rules, but we all know the French and the Germans pay no heed to those. Betty in Salford, we've got you at last. Hiya, Betty.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, Alan.
Hiya.
My son was taking me to the doctor this morning, early, and all of a sudden a police car pulled him up. And I said to my son, "You're not speeding," because we were in side street. So he said no, and he started talking to him, and I was looking at my watch. It's getting near to my appointment, and I put my head out. I said, "What's going on?" And all of a sudden the policeman came and did something to his tinted windows. So I said to my son, "What's he doing?" He said, "Just a minute." And he said, "Don't ask me," something about the windows had to be a certain colour, and my son's windows were tinted. Don't ask me if they were brown or red. I think they're like very tinted. I can see out of them. So he said that they're not. You have to have them a certain colour. So my son said, "Well, I've had these tinted windows for 12 years and nobody has ever said anything before." And they gave him a ticket and fined him £30. Now I've not heard of anything. I've not heard anything on the radio.
Oh, well, you've not been listening to me all the time. We did it a few months back.
You didn't?
We did. These people who have tinted windows in their car, particularly, but not only, particularly if they're the front windscreen or what you might call the driver's and passenger door windows.
That's right.
There are very precise rules about the degree of tint. And they may include the colour, I don't know, but the degree of tint one is allowed, because it's been deemed that certain degrees of tint obstruct the view that the driver has of the road.
Well, I know my son heard anything about this. I mean, I'm not. You might have done it, and I might not have been.
Well, that's fair enough.
But I thought something like this is important. I can understand what you're saying, but why wasn't it more on the television, for instance, and saying now you can't? You should have make sure that your tinted windows are such and such.
Well, there have been a number of cases reported on radio, television, and indeed on this particular programme, and in the newspapers. There were even, when the rules came in, there were even cars rolling off the production line that weren't legal.
Really?
Yes. So tinted windows are to be... It is wise to be wary of them, but there were cars rolling off the production line that were not legal.
I mean, his car isn't particularly a new. Well, when I say new,
well, indeed,
he might have had it 12 months. But he's always had tinted windows.
Well, yes, but that's...
He gets hay fever, so he doesn't like too much light, and he doesn't wear a hat.
OK, well, I understand all of that, but the rules are the same.
Wait, can I just say something then? When he had them tinted, it actually was done by the firm or even by the person that produced the car. Why didn't they keep to that standard?
Well, first of all, the standard was only recently defined. So, do you remember years ago, Betty, before 1968, when they used to say, "Are you too drunk to drive?"
Right, yes.
And what they did was, because some people said, "Well, I wasn't that drunk. I was only a bit drunk. I was only a lot drunk. How drunk was you? Can you tell me by degree?" They changed all that because it was too messy. And they brought in legislation that said you are allowed to have this much alcohol in your blood, and if you have more than that, you're guilty of an offence. Whether you're drunk or not is irrelevant. You're guilty of an offence. And with drink driving, of course, you're not drunk for very long, unless you're drunk all the time, like some people in this business, but you're not drunk for very long, so it doesn't matter. But with vehicles, construction and use and the like, if you change the rules about the visibility through the glass, that can be, on the face of it at least, retrospective.
I understand that, yes.
And that's where what your son's fallen foul of.
Oh. Well, I mean, I thought, it's a standard colour. I would have thought it was a standard colour if it was manufactured that way. I think when he got the car, he, as I say, he has hay fever when he drives, around the country. So he's always had tinted windows.
Well,
it's something new to me anyway. I shall pass this information on.
Please do.
To as many people as I know.
But he needs to. Well, he needs to get. Well, here, BBC News, 31st of May, 2007. Police forces across the country are cracking down on tinted car windows, but what's driving the craze among the drivers for a darkened view of the road, blah, blah, blah. And over the last 2 years, police forces as far afield as Northern Ireland, Devon, Manchester and Strathclyde have been cracking down on tinted windows. The law states front windows must allow 70% of light through and the front windscreen 75%. So that's the regulations, yet there are illegal tints out there letting in as little as 5% of light. Traffic officers believe such excessive tints are potentially dangerous, particularly at night, and they're increasingly armed with optical meters. There we go.
Yeah, that's what he did.
In Manchester. Well, listen to this. You said you didn't know about it. Remember, this was in 2007. This was written.
Well,
I'll read it to you. In Manchester, more than 2,000 fixed penalty notices have been issued to drivers of cars with excessively tinted windows since October 2006. 2006 to 2007, there were 2,000 of them. 520 prohibitions where the police check the window and say you're going no further in this car.
Really?
That's it. It's too much. You're not driving it any further, and they take it off you.
Yeah, Yeah, well, I see a lot of cars that you can't look into. I just thought it was... I didn't even give it a second thought. You know, and I just said to my son, you know, I know he's always had them, and he just says, well, I've always had them because of my hay fever. You know, it's sort of to keep the light out when you're driving.
I must admit, I've never heard of light-sensitive hay fever.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying this. I presume that this is the reason. Why would he have them done? I can't say any other point. I'll have to ask him that.
Well, I offer no solution other than to say I occasionally, well, quite frequently now, see motor cars with little blue lights on the front facing forwards, and it's usually some presensive twit who's doing it for effect.
Oh, well, I don't know whether...
like Bono and his dark glasses. What a prat he looks.
That's right.
Yeah.
I know, it's like the chap that spoke to me on the phone said, is it tinted red? So I said, no, it's definitely like a brownie colour, beigey brown. But I can see out. I mean, I don't know whether he can...
Well, the trouble is, of course, that it's all very well saying I can see out, but in the darkness...
Yeah, I quite understand that, and I quite understand the logic of it now.
Yeah.
Saying, but it didn't seem that dark. I've seen some cars with, like, black.
I know, and you just wonder, don't you?
I just wondered why that was all.
Yeah, well, there you are, now you know, the regulations are there.
They are there, and he's now £30 in pocket for taking me to the doctor.
Did you get there in time?
Just about.
Well, that'll do. That's what's really important. Never mind his 30 quid. His money to burn. He's your son.
Absolutely.
And I hope you're going to give him a slap.
I will.
Excellent.
I shall tell him that it's been going on since then.
I think the term, I cannot speak for you, but my mother would have rung up and said, it's your own damn fault, you bloody fool.
Yeah, well...
I should give that a spin, Betty. I don't see why I should be the only one to suffer.
No, the thing was, I said to him, did you know about it? He said, no, I've never heard of it before. I mean, if he was speeding, I would have said, well, it just serves you right.
Yeah.
You know, when he's come back, when he, you know... he doesn't do it now because he can't do it. But when he was a young lad, he was always getting for speeding.
Well, there you are, Betty.
I used to say, well, you're paying it.
You get the opportunity once again to say it's your own damn fault.
Yeah.
Good on you, Betty.
Yes, thank you very much.
I hope the doctor was kind to you. Sharon in Farnworth. Hiya, Sharon.
Hi.
What have you got?
Well, it's funny you should be talking about driving licences because I had a rather sad letter this week. I knew it was coming, but when you actually see it in black and white, it's a bit upsetting. I lost my licence because I now have epilepsy.
Ah, yes.
I passed my test when I was 18, first time. I'm 42 now, and in all the time I had the licence, I only ever got a speeding ticket, and I was only a little bit over when I got it. But the thing is, the twist to it is I'm a recovering alcoholic and I'm only 2 years sober. And the thing is, all the years I held that licence, I never once got behind the wheel with a drink in me. And the epilepsy, I mean, I started drinking at the age of 14, and the epilepsy is drink-related, and I have to say, my health's so poor now, it's unbelievable. It has wrecked my life. But I've got 2 years of sobriety behind me. And unfortunately, I thought the only thing I could say is a virtually clean licence is not bad for a chronic alcoholic. But
It's not bad, is it? It's not bad at all.
But I've lost it.
Through no fault of your own, really. You can't help epilepsy. It's not, you know, one gets it, end of story.
Well, I got that through pancreatitis, which I got through the drink, and the consultant
Oh, well, it's you're partly to blame, I guess.
The drink caused the pancreatitis, and as the consultant said, one thing triggers off the other. But when you're young, you don't think that. You think livers. You know, I'll get a chronic liver. You know, you don't think you're going to go down that path. But unfortunately, it was it made me feel quite down because I thought, well, that's another thing gone. That's
Another thing
nail
gone.
in the
Yeah,
coffin.
it's a progressive thing, isn't it? As you lose, if you like, those itsy-bitsy freedoms that we all take for granted, and you're watching. I mean, it's like people with multiple sclerosis. They also know that it's. I mean, Mackenzie isn't always a progressive condition, but multiple sclerosis almost always is, and you just see the future of wheelchairs and all the rest of it, and it's quite scary. Sharon, you have my sympathy. What more can I say? Thank you for talking to us. That's nearly me done. I'm grateful to a number of people who have sent me a Mackenzie friend assists a litigant in person in the United Kingdom court. This person does not need to be legally qualified, and it comes from the eponymous 1970 case of Mackenzie versus Mackenzie, hence the term. That's it from me. If you're an XL passenger, well, actually you're not. I'll see you tomorrow at 6. Ta-da!
Join me, Mike Shaft, as I find out more about church planting.